Good morning, students. How's everyone doing? Good? I'm so excited to be back here at McGirr Elementary School. Some of you students may remember me from last year. Raise your hands if you saw me last year. Okay, about half, not bad. Thank you, hands down. So for those who haven't met, my name is Matthew Krastel. I am a person with autism, and that's my main topic today about my presentation. It's called My Life with Autism, My Autistic Life. So just before I begin, I just want to make some definitions to tell you all about what autism is, because you might question why, what is autism? Because not everybody has autism out there. So autism it's a treatable neurological spectrum disorder that affects between 1 to 150 children, youth, and adults in BC alone. Most people that have autism see things differently than other people, and that's one reason why I was diagnosed with autism. And some people that have autism may have problems learning different subjects anywhere, and that's my other reason why I have autism. There I am as a newborn. Here I am, first photo of my life. I was born on the 7th of May of 1998. And that's me when I was just born in the Nowell Regional General Hospital. So do any of you kids recognize this place? It's called the Child Development Center. Yeah, there's a few of you. That's where I went when I was in preschool. And unfortunately, it no longer exists as a preschool, but it's still a place where people with severe disabilities will go to of any age. It's a really good place. I went there just over 20 years ago. My elementary school years, I went to Uplands Park Elementary School, and that's one of the best elementary schools I've ever been to. And we support the Uplands Park Panthers. And I'm going to start by talking about that now. So the beginning of the first grade, I had a lot of learning problems as well as behavior issues, especially during recess. And now grade 4 was actually the worst school year for me. And it was because I got into so much trouble from the school principal for many different things for various reasons. Now, when you guys are at recess, almost every day, I think, have you seen a lot of bad behavior going around outside that causes trouble from the principal? Yeah, it can happen. And that's what the duty officers do. That's right. That is right. Well, when I was in the 4th grade, I was in the principal's office almost every day. I'm not joking. I was in the principal's office. I was not a good student. But then when grades 5 to 7 rolled around, my behavior did start to improve, but not a lot, but it slowly improved where I didn't have to see the principal every single day. Okay, so high school years, I went to Wellington Secondary School. It's home of the Wildcats, one of the best high schools in Nanaimo. So in grade 8, the first day of high school is very different for me, but almost for everybody. In fact, when you students get into high school, when you kids get into the 8th grade, you're going to realize that you'll meet 2 times more of your friends that you meet here than you will anywhere else. So 2 weeks into the first year of high school, I made lots of new friends, and I started to like going to school. Raise your hand if you like going to school here. Oh, good. Yes. I'm very happy about that. Thank you. Hands down. Hands down. Thank you. School is really good. It's good to get your education, and if you want to have a good career in your future, that's definitely one thing to go to is school. And school is a very important place. Is that right, teachers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I'm going to skip to grades 9 and 10 and go into grade 11 because there was a big moment in my grade 11 year where I decided on my own to change my life completely. Now, are you ready for a little story?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a really interesting story that might change your life. So when I was in grade 11, halfway through grade 11, I just wanted to fall asleep in my sleep. And have you ever had a moment in your life where you try to go to sleep, but you just couldn't because you think of something in your mind that you did in the past that you wish you regret? Yeah, it happens to everybody. Yeah, hands down, guys. Thank you. I've had that moment one night, and it really hit me hard because I was like, why am I thinking about the past? And what I'm talking about is what I shared about earlier about me being a bad person in grade 4. Those memories were coming back again. So I couldn't fall asleep for almost an hour, at least an hour, until I said to myself, the next day, I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna apologize to everybody who I've made fun of. And I used to bully students a lot back in the day, in grade 4 especially. So I went to school the next morning and I was very emotional and in tears, in fact. And I apologized to each and every student out there. Even though they say don't worry about it, I just couldn't help but apologize because I wanted to be serious about it. So once my life changed completely, all my friends in high school started to become amazing friends, and that's the reason why. And they still do to this day, even though I graduated high school a long time ago. So grade 12, the final year of high school, is very emotional for me. And it will be for you guys too when you guys get to grade 12. And during the 2016 high school award ceremony, I received something called a School Spirit Award. Has your school ever done anything about school spirit before?
No, we haven't.
No.
We talk about school spirit and being a good
Okay.
guy, all that kind of thing. So the kids will be able to connect just fine.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I'm going to be talking about too briefly is school spirit, because it's very important that every school should have something called school spirit.
And I think we wear we wear school clothing, and we have a song that we
And we
sing
had
during
the little
assembly,
suspicious pie thing in
right?
the face.
Oh,
So
man.
that's spirit, yeah. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So that was some serious school spirit. We had 500 people like rah-rah.
It's interesting that school spirit, some schools call it School Spirit Week, but I think school spirit should be something that should be done all year round. Don't get me wrong, I think it's something you should do all year round. And I'm going to explain one of the reasons why I showed school spirit in a few minutes. But before I do, here I am in the 8th grade, and the comparison between the graduation photo and from grade 12 and grade 8. So here's me when I was in grade 12. So when you students get into grade 12, this is what you're going to be expecting to wear for your grade 12 school photo. Looks really cool and fancy, is it? Really cool, eh? Yeah, and I used to grow a mustache back in the day, but not anymore. So this is a big moment I want to share. Some of you students will remember this from last year, but I call this moment the big step. So this is me right here, and this is the graduation ceremony. This gentleman here, his name is Mr. Mason, and right here there was an award that was made out of him called the Tom Mason Wildcat Award. And the Tom Mason Wildcat Award is awarded to a student that showed lots of school spirit for leadership and commitment to the school and community. And I was the very first student in Wellington's history to win that award, and it still goes on to this day. So this is what it looks like up close. So here I am, the very first student to win the award, and I'm sure there's already a couple of other empty plates that are now taken because it's now a history thing for Wellington Secondary School. And I'm going to be showing you guys a video on what it was like when I won that award, because you're going to really think it's emotional.
Which leads me to our final award here today. This is a new award presented for the first time, in 2016. This award goes to a student who, much like Mr. Mason, represented the spirit of Wellington and what it takes to be a Wildcat. We are awarding a graduate this evening in a number of ways. We have in the classroom, showed tremendous growth, leadership in the school, and in the spirit. This is for 2016. This is a tremendous pride of Wellington. Volunteer whenever asked, not when not asked. With welcome, engaging to all our students with no tension, engaging grade or social. Students give countless hours to volunteers at the school.
Thank you. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh? Yeah, thank you, thank you. So that moment was very, very emotional. It was so emotional because it was a big surprise. It was a surprise for me, a surprise for Mr. Mason, and everybody that was in the grad class. And graduating from high school really felt disappointed. I was so disappointed to leave all my friends I've known for a very long time. And one of these days soon, it's going to be you guys' turn to graduate and separate from all your friends you've known since here and high school. So a month after the ceremony, I started working at Lowe's Home Improvement, and I just loaded a lot of heavy stuff into people's vehicles. Any of you guys have been to Lowe's before? I think everybody has. Yeah, lots. Oh yeah. Yeah, Lowe's is a really good place, and pretty soon we're going to be turning to Rona in the next year or two. So a new name, but the same business, and I'll still be there. Okay, so there's one question I really want to ask that I really want you teachers to ask these students. It's very easy. It's a very easy homework assignment for them to focus on until they graduate high school, which is this question. How can you show your school spirit to your school? How can you show school spirit to McGirr? That's the one question. You can even write this on your board if you want. How can you show school spirit? And this is exactly what you should do all year round. It's not school spirit week once a week. It's every week, every month, every school year. Really think about that question. There's a lot of answers to that question. So keep that to yourself for now. And who knows, one of these days, if you really show school spirit, you may get an award just like me. So think about that. All right, so now we're gonna, if anybody has any questions, this is the time now. You had a question, didn't you?
My mom.
No, go back there. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. That's right. See, look, you got two answers.
Yeah.
Well done. Keep that in mind for the next few school years. Yes, yes, go ahead.
Why does the background look like the ocean?
It's a background to show.
Use it or something?
It's more of a like original background. I just keep it just because so that way it's not only just a white screen. I use it just for a good background to make it more fancy in a way. Yes, sir.
Jack, for just a second, grade McGirr students' questions. All questions are amazing, but questions about the presentation. So we're going to
Good, yeah.
questions about the presentation.
Yeah. Do you have a question about? Yes.
It's actually a comment.
Sure.
I played basketball at Uplands.
Oh, you did?
And didn't they used to be the Uplands Unicorns?
It used to be. That's right. Good remembering. Sure. Go ahead.
Two things. When I graduate from high school, and you said you probably leave most of your friends behind,
Yes.
I probably keep in touch with probably most of them.
You might. I can.
And one last ever saying, when you got that new award that was just unveiled, you probably at that point turned famous.
Well, funny enough, I was pretty much famous in high school, so I wasn't just famous from the Tom Mason Wildcat Award, thank you. But I do feel famous now coming here, and half of you guys, like you mentioned earlier, remember who I was. And I've been to other schools before, so this is not the only school I've done my Autistic Life presentation. Yes?
Was everyone taking pictures of the award?
Oh yeah, you won't believe how many people were this was at the Port Theater, and it seats about 800 people. So I'm sure at least somebody was taking photos besides my parents who were filming the video that you saw. Right. You right there. You've been to Wellington too? It's a big high school, really big high school. Yes, sir.
I actually, my older brother Keaton, he actually goes to Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
He's in grade 11, I think.
That's great.
Grade 12, and he's been going there since he
That's excellent. And who knows, maybe he might win the Tom Mason Wildcat Award in the next year. If he shows a lot of school spirit to Wellington Secondary School, he could be next in the next year or two. Sure, go ahead.
If you were new to a school, what would you suggest to be able to show school spirit? Who could you go to for resources, or who could support you?
I would say a teacher, like more of a learning assistance teacher. Principal would be okay too, because another thing that I think is good to show school spirit is helping a principal out with anything. And I won't spoil it, because there's many things that a principal may ask you to do for anything.
You can show school spirit on your own. You don't need to show it.
And you can do it on your own too. That's right. There's many ways to do it on your own too. How much time do we have for questions?
We have 6 minutes.
Okay, so 2 more, I think.
Sure.
We'll do you two.
What happened between grade 4 and 5 to improve your behavior?
So not only did I go to the principal all the time, yeah, it's silly, I went to the principal's office every single day, which is embarrassing. I was very embarrassed. But I did have an educational assistant assist me from all the way from grades 1 to 7. And yeah, it was challenging, really challenging to go through that. But she even recorded my progress every single day on a graph. And the higher on the graph, the more behaved I was. But there were days where the line went really down, and that's, you know what happens? My behavior was bad until it goes back up to improve. So my educational system was focusing on that from me all the way from grades 1 to 7. So in the 5th grade and through grades 6 and 7, it would go up and down a tiny bit, but it was better than in the 4th grade, where I was almost at the very down on the graph, which was not where you want to be, kids. That's right. That's right. Okay, I guess we'll do one more question. Go ahead. Yeah.
What did you do the most to get the reward?
One more time.
What did you do the most to get that reward?
I was helping not only Mr. Mason, but everybody in the school about very many different things about setting things up in the school. Most importantly, actually, I would say, is I was doing a lot of technical work at Wellington Secondary School in grade 12, setting up sound equipment and doing sound for school assemblies. That's what I did. And that's how I knew all about AV equipment and all that. I literally did all this by myself. It was so easy to get done in like 10, 15 minutes. All right, so one more thing just before we wrap up. I do have a website. It's www.mmkrastel.wix.com/my-site. I do have some interviews I've done that I put on my website, as well as some old music videos, because I used to be a musician. And I do have some interesting facts about me that some of you may find a little interesting about me that most people have never done before. And I also have some information cards. I know you helped me out a lot today. I don't know how many I'm going to need, but
You know what, I can figure that out for you.
yeah. If you give them out to any student that's interested, if you guys want to raise your hand if you like one, and she'll just pass them around to you. I think everybody almost. And that is everything. Thank you very much.
Eyes on me. You can see that we have a special guest. So when we do have a special guest, you need to be on your best. So I would like to introduce to you a young man. His name is Matthew. He's going to be telling us a story. Go up. Put your hands down, please. Thank you. And what we want to show Matthew is that we're good listeners. So the way we do that is we keep our bodies still, and our eyes are going to be on Matthew. If we could, we can say, welcome, Matthew. Are you ready? Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you very much. All right. All right, thank you very much. Good morning, students. How's everyone doing? Good, good. So like your teacher said it, my name is Matthew Krastel. I'm a person with autism, and that's my main topic today about my presentation is my autistic life, so my life with autism. But just before I actually go into the beginning of my life with autism, I want to give you some definitions of what autism means. Now, there's 3 definitions I put down that are very basic definitions. The main one being is that autism is a treatable neurological spectrum disorder that affects between 1 to 150 children, youth, and adults in British Columbia alone. Most people that have autism see things differently than other people, and that's one of the reasons why I am diagnosed with autism. And some people that have autism may have problems learning different subjects in school or anything like that anywhere, and that's the second reason why I got diagnosed with autism. So here I am, the beginning of my life, born on May 7th of 1998, and that photo is me as a newborn, the very first picture that was ever taken of me. So moving on into preschool years, do any of you kids recognize this building?
My sister's in preschool.
Your sister's in preschool? Well, this was the place I went to. It's called the Child Development Center. It still exists to this day, but then I found out it's actually not a preschool anymore. It's actually a place where people with various disabilities of any age will go to this place and take some special things there. And this is where I went, and I finished preschool 20 years ago, so 2003. So going on now to my elementary years, when I was you kids' age, I did not come to this school. I went to Uplands Park Elementary School, home of the Panthers. So I'm going to talk first of all about when I was in the first grade. So since the beginning of grade 1, I had a lot of learning problems as well as behavior issues, especially during recess. Now, do any of you kids ever see a lot of trouble going on at recess? Yeah. And I know all the staff that are on duty would say the same. My grade 4 year was the worst school year because I got into a lot of trouble from the school principal for many different things. And it was pretty much because I was bullying kids. I was making fun of people. I was in a lot of trouble pretty much every day in grade 4. And I was in the principal's office every single day almost. And it was embarrassing. Really, really embarrassing. We're going to have questions at the end, so save your question for the end, okay? Thank you. So in grades 5 to 7, my behavior did start to improve very slowly, but it was okay. I had some good and bad days, but the good news was I didn't have a bad day every day like I did in grade 4. Okay, so in high school years, I went to Wellington Secondary School. It's home of the Wildcats. So in grade 8, so when you kids get into grade 8, the first day of high school, it will be very different, and it was different for me especially. And the reason is because not only do you move on to a certain timetable in your class schedules, like you would here in one classroom, but more importantly, you meet 2 times more friends, new friends, in high school than you do here in elementary school. And 2 weeks into the first year of high school, I made lots of new friends, and that's the reason why. And also that's one reason why I started to like going to school. Now, I'm very excited to ask this question. Raise your hand if you really like coming to this school. Okay, that makes me very happy. Thank you, hands down. School is a really good place. A good place for education. It makes your teachers happy. And it's a really good place to learn for a career that you want to do in the future. So I'm going to skip to grades 9 and 10 and go to grade 11 because grades 9 and 10 were pretty much the same way as in grade 8. So in grade 11, there was a big moment in my grade 11 year where I decided to change my life completely on my own. Now, are you ready to hear a little story? I have an important story that, trust me, this might help you change your life. So, have any of you kids ever had a moment in your life where you try to fall asleep, but you couldn't fall asleep because you think about things in your mind that you did in the past that you wish you could have done better? Yeah? Yeah, every day. Yeah, it can happen every day. Yeah, thank you guys. Hands down. Thank you. So one night, I was trying to go to sleep. It was around February, so about over halfway into the school year. I tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't fall asleep for like at least an hour because things in my mind were coming in from what I did in grade 4, like I mentioned earlier, where I was not being a good student and going to the principal every single day. So about an hour later, just when I was about to fall asleep, I said to myself this one thing: tomorrow, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to apologize to every single student that I made fun of, even in high school or in elementary school. And I apologized. And the next day I went to school and I apologized to every single student. And I was in tears because I was very, very emotional because I wanted to prove to students that I was being serious. So yeah, there were some students where they were like, no, don't worry about it. But seriously, I couldn't help it. I apologized. And that proved to them that I was being serious. So after that happened, once my life changed completely like that, all my friends in high school started to become amazing friends. And still to this day, even though I'm not in high school anymore. So in grade 12, the final year of high school is very emotional, and it will be for you students as well when you kids get into grade 12. So during the 2016 high school award ceremony, I received something called a School Spirit Award. Now, have you kids ever heard about a school spirit or even just school spirit in general? Have any of you kids ever heard of that before? You have not. Well, today is your lucky day because I'm going to talk as well about school spirit. But before I do, I just want to share a little nice comparison of me in grades 8 and grade 12. So when you kids get into grade 12 right here, you're going to wear a grad gown pretty much like this. And it'll be very fancy for your school photos, and your parents will be very proud of you when you kids get up to there. So now I'm going to share something called the big step. And this is exactly where I'm going to talk about school spirit. So the reason I call this moment the big step is because here I am in my grad gown. This is at my high school award ceremony at the Port Theater. This gentleman here, his name is Mr. Mason. And Mr. Mason was a vice principal at Wellington Secondary School for a very long time. And he was just retiring that day as well. So retirement as well as graduating high school, we got a big surprise right here on a wood plaque. It's called the Tom Mason Wildcat Award under his name because he showed school spirit and leadership as a teacher, but they wanted to award a student that also showed school spirit. So school spirit means many different things. Showing leadership, commitment to the school and community. There's many different things that can involve school spirit. And I was the very first student in Wellington Secondary School's history to win the Tom Mason Wildcat Award. So here it is close up. So I'm the very first student in 2015-16 school year, and I'm sure now there's more spots filled because it's now a history thing. And even if it goes out, there'll be another one, a brand new one that will come out after that. And I'm going to show you kids a video of that moment when I won that award because it was a very emotional moment, and I'm sure you kids will really want to see this.
Which leads me to our final award here today. This is a new award presented for the first time in 2016. This award goes to a student
Here comes the big moment right here.
The recipient of the 2016 inaugural Tom Mason Wildcat Award is Matthew Krastel.
Thank you. Well, what did you kids think? Big moment there, was it? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the applause. So that moment really was actually a surprise. Like, I did not see that coming. Plus, I didn't realize none of the teachers or students were aware. Just a few teachers were aware about that award. So it was a big surprise at last minute at that award ceremony. And once I graduated from there, I felt very disappointed as well, like leaving all the friends that I've known for a very long time. And one day it's going to be you guys, graduating high school and separating from all of your friends, as long as you keep in touch somehow. There's many different ways to keep in touch. So a month after that ceremony, I started working at this place called Lowe's. And have any of you kids been to Lowe's before? A really big hardware store. Yeah, there's a few. Okay, that's good. Thank you, hands down. Thank you. That's where I've been since, it's been 7 years. And I just load lots of heavy stuff into people's vehicles. It's a really good job. I really, really like going there. So there's one last question I want you kids to really think about, just to keep this into your own mind. And I want you to really think about this question for the next several years when you're in school. In fact, I think teachers should write this question down on your board so they can remind them about this one question right here. How can you show your school spirit to your school? And what you can write down is, how can you show school spirit to McGirr? Really good question. It's a big question that I really want you kids to think about. And this is exactly what you should do. Now you learned about school spirit, is really think about that question, because there's a lot of answers to that question. And if you follow the answers and follow the question until you graduate, maybe one day you'll be like me, winning a big award like that and maybe get a standing ovation. There's a lot of good answers to that. So now is the time. If you have any questions, this is now the time. Okay, you had a question. You go right ahead.
Why do you have autism? You seem fine to me.
Well, here's the thing about autism. For me, yeah, not everyone can notice I have autism. I look like a very serious person like your teachers, but it's actually not true. There's actually something really hidden in me. My brain really functions very differently than all of you guys. That you cannot see. I see things very differently, and I do have a little bit of trouble learning things and understanding things. It's really, and that's a cause of autism. And the way I feel about things sometimes, I feel very differently than others.
Are you colorblind?
I wouldn't say I'm colorblind. But even like myself living on my own is a big step that not many people with autism can do at my age of almost going to be 25 in a few weeks. So, yes.
I hope I get that like you.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult. Not every student can win that award. You got to really show your school spirit and leadership. And I'm sure your teachers can really help you out with that. They would understand what school spirit is when they were learning about being a teacher in school. So really think about that question. I really hope your teachers will write down that question on their board, and then you can remember that for the rest of your high school, your elementary and high school years. Yes?
So was it a hard life or an easy life?
Oh, I would say people think my life is easy, but trust me, it really is not easy. And I'm going to explain some of these things that I really don't really talk about. But when I was in school, in elementary school, when I was you kids' age, I had to work with an educational assistant every single day for the rest of school. And she would track down my progress of how I behaved. And there were multiple days where she records my behavior on a graph, a line graph. So if you think about it as a graph, the top of the line means I had the best behavior. But if you're at the bottom of the line, it means you had the worst behavior. So, for example, when I was in grade 4, when I was telling you earlier that my behavior was not great almost every day, the line on the graph was pretty much all the way to the bottom almost every day. A little bit ups and downs, but not the greatest. But then in grades 5, 6, and 7, it would go up and down. So that means that when the line is down, if the line would go up, meaning that my behavior was good, but if it's the same the next day, it will go straight. And then if it goes bad, it would go down, meaning my behavior wasn't good, so I had to improve better. That's how life in elementary school was really, really difficult. And there was so many other things, but there's a lot of different answers to that. But my parents, they were very strict on me. And they helped me get into a life that I am now, where I'm presenting with autism. And doing this was something I did all by myself. Yes?
Can you tell me a little bit more about the graph and when you were in grade 4? Did it give you a feeling that you wanted to be better, or was it a good feeling or not a good feeling seeing those graphs every day?
Yeah, good question. I would say it really, if I didn't have that graph, it's hard for me to tell how good I was in school. I know not many students go through that, but for me as a person with autism, it's more important. So it was easier for me to see, and it was more meant for my parents to see how good I was. That's pretty much why my educational assistant was really going through the graph, and I thought it was a great idea. Really, really good idea. Okay, the kid in the back. Yep.
When you were in grade 4 and you're bullying people, and you weren't sure what people also did you feel embarrassing? Why did you keep doing it?
I just couldn't help it. It was very hard for me to learn to stop bullying kids and just lots of other behavior. And I'm not going to explain much of how I behaved because that was a long time ago. But I just didn't understand much at that time. And I was only 10 years old, almost 10 years old at that time. How much do we have time for questions?
One more time for one more.
One more? Okay. Kid in the red shirt right there. Yep.
What did you do in grade 1?
What did I do in grade 1? That was when I really started to learn all about mathematics, PE, which was my most favorite, gym class, really my most favorite. Math I really didn't like, honestly.
Of course you don't.
I haven't done math since I was in grade 11. And science, which I thought was really cool, a really cool subject, because the water cycle is the one memory I'll never forget, because no one understands. And what's surprising about the water cycle is not many people years ago learned about the water cycle, because the one fact I'll really share quickly is I believe that the more you use hot water on your taps, the more chances the weather will get warmer.
Okay, let's do that.
I'm very serious. I learned about it for 5 years. 5 years. And even when on a snow day, if it goes below 0 degrees Celsius, I use all the hot water, put the drain down when it's cold, and all of a sudden, when it turns to warm, then take the drain out, and I'm sure it really helped. I checked the weather app, and then it got warmer, and I was like, yes, that makes a difference.
All right.
So
Children,
Okay.
we've had the pleasure of having Matthew tell us all about his life journey. And I think for myself, just a minute, Max, look at me. We need to say thank you to Matthew. Can everyone?
Thank you.
Say thank you, Matthew.
You're welcome. Just one more thing I want you to give out. I do have information cards that I want you to give out. And if you search my first and last name, Matthew Krastel, on YouTube, you'll see a lot of me on YouTube for many different things besides my presentation and stuff. I don't know how many you're going to need.
You know what? 20, 40, 60. Do you want me
How
to?
much subscribers?
How many subscribers?
Oh, I probably have I don't even remember, 400 at least. But I do accept subscribers. Try this.
Sure. And if not, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, kids. Thank you. All right, kids. Have a good day.
So I'm just going to do some introductions before we start. We have grade 3, 4, and 5 in here, Matthew. This is Matthew Krastel, and he used to go to Wellington School. He's now an adult, obviously, so he doesn't go to high school anymore, but he is a person that happens to have autism. And our presentation today is about autism awareness, and just to sort of let people know about all the different kinds of people that live in our world and all the different brains that we have in our world. And Matthew's a great public speaker, has some really interesting things to share with you about his life. And I would expect that all of you will use your best listening, please, and thank you. Go ahead and take it.
All right. Good morning, students. How's everyone doing? Good. Really good to hear. Like Ms. Boyd has said, my name is Matthew Krastel, and yes, I am a person with autism. Raise your hand if you guys saw me here when I was at McGirr last school year. I heard a lot of people were saying that. Yeah, lots of you, about half of you. Yeah, that's good. I'm thank you guys, hands down, thank you. I'm very, very excited to be back. It's 1 year later already. Time is really flying by really fast. So I'm here again to share about my autistic life. But just before I explain a lot about what has been going on in my life, I really want to give you guys some definitions of what autism is. So there's 3 definitions here I have that are very basic, but the main definition really is autism is a treatable neurological spectrum disorder that affects between 1 to 150 children, youth, and adults in BC alone. Most people that have autism see things differently than others, and that's one of the reasons why I'm diagnosed with autism. And some people that have autism also will have problems learning various subjects anywhere, and that's the other reason why I'm diagnosed with autism. So here I am, the very first photo of me of my life as a newborn, born on May 7th of 1998. And that's the very first picture of me, pretty neat. So my preschool years, I don't know if you kids will recognize this place. This place is called the Child Development Center, and this is where I went when I was in preschool 20 years ago. And actually this place still exists, but it's actually not a preschool area anymore. They turned it into a place where people who have severe disabilities like myself with autism, or just groups that have various other things that have other special needs, that's what hosts the Child Development Center. So in elementary school years, I went to Uplands Park Elementary School. I'm sorry I did not come to this school. It looks like a good school, but I did not come here when I was in elementary school. Uplands Park Elementary School hosts the Panthers. And I see you guys are, what team are you guys?
The Mariners.
The Mariners, thank you. So since the beginning of grade 1, I had a lot of learning problems as well as behavior issues, especially during recess. Now, when you kids were outside just out from recess, I'm sure there was a lot of behavior going around that wasn't good, was there? Hopefully you kids were being good outside, playing good with your friends. Well, when I was in grade 4, when I was some of you kids' age, I had a lot of problems with my behavior, and I got into a lot of trouble from my school principal for many different reasons, and I was almost in the principal's office pretty much every day. which is really not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. So, yeah, it was very embarrassing to be in the school principal's office every single day almost, because it was hard for me to learn my lessons. But when I got into grades 5 to 7, my behavior slowly improved, but not as much as before, but it was better where I at least had a couple of great days in every single week. So at high school years, I went to Wellington Secondary School. It's home of the Wildcats. So in grade 8, when you kids get to grade 8, it's very, very different than when you're actually here in this school right now. And the reason is really because not only do you go into different classrooms for various subjects, but also you meet 2 times more friends in high school than you would here at McGirr Elementary. And so 2 weeks into the first year of high school, yes, I made lots of new friends that way, and you kids will be too. And I also started to like going to school. Now, raise your hand if you really like coming to this school. Okay, half of you, great. Yeah, a teacher, yes. All teachers have to like come in here. That's great. Thank you, hands down, thank you. School really is a good part of education. It's not only exciting to learn a new subject and focus on something you want to do as a career in the near future, but it's really important to connect with people and teachers that way. So I'm going to jump to grade 11 because grades 9 and 10 were the same as how I was in grade 8. So in grade 11, there was a big moment in my grade 11 year where I decided on my own to change my life completely. Now, are you ready for me to tell you a story? I'm going to tell you a very important story. And the people that were here last year may remember this story. But this is a very important story that one day might change your life. So have you kids ever tried to when you're going to bed and you try to fall asleep, you just can't fall asleep, you really try to fall asleep, but something in your mind comes into you where you think about the past where you wish you could have done better? Has that happened to you guys? Yeah, it happens to almost everybody. Yeah, thank you kids, hands down. So I had that moment one night. It was February in my grade 11 year. I really couldn't fall asleep for at least an hour, which is really not common. Usually you'll fall asleep in like 10 minutes. So this night I was trying to fall asleep, but then my mind made me think about the memories I had in grade 4, which, like I said earlier, where I talked about how I was in the principal's office every single day, but more importantly, my behavior wasn't great. So I decided to, as soon as I fell asleep, the one thing I said to myself before I fell asleep was this: tomorrow, when I go back to school, I'm going to go around and apologize to every single student that there ever is, and literally apologize. So the next morning came, and trust me, I was in tears. And the tears meant that I was emotional. And the reason I felt that way is to prove to all the students that I was being serious. Because half the students I apologized to said to me, yo, don't worry about that. But I'm like, no, I'm very, very serious. And it's not funny. So yeah, then they realized how serious I was, and this is what happens. Once my life changed completely, all my friends I apologized to started to become amazing friends to me. And they still are to this day. So now in grade 12, the final year of high school is of course very emotional for me, and it will be emotional when you kids get to grade 12. And during the 2016 high school awards ceremony, I received something called a School Spirit Award. Now, some of you kids might remember what I meant about school spirit last year. Some of you kids might not even know what school spirit means. Well, school spirit, I'm going to really talk more about that now. So, but first, I want to share my comparison of me in grade 8 right here. And this is me in grade 12. So when you kids get to grade 12, you're going to expect to wear a nice gown like this, very fancy, and it will make your parents very proud that it's a step towards graduating high school and starting a new chapter in life. So right here, some of you kids will remember this. I call this the big step because this is what really I talk more about school spirit. So this is me here in my graduation ceremony at the Port Theater. This gentleman here, his name is Mr. Mason, and he was a vice principal at Wellington Secondary School for a very long time, and he was retiring that year as well. So a mixture of graduation and retirement at the same time. Some of the staff at Wellington came up with the idea, and it was a big surprise for me, decided to make a wood plaque award called the Tom Mason Wildcat Award, and all the grads that get that award, and I was the very first student in Wellington's history to win that award. The way you win that award is if you show lots of school spirit, which means leadership, commitment to the school and community. See, there's your two examples about school spirit right there. But there's many other answers to school spirit. Now, here's a close-up. So this is what it looks like. So there I am, Matthew Krastel, the very first student in Wellington history to win the award. And I'm sure there's already a few other spots taken. Now, I'm going to share a video with you kids now about the moment when I won that award, because it really was an emotional moment.
This award goes to a student who, much like Mr. Mason, represented the spirit of Wellington and what it takes to be a wildcat. We are awarding a graduate this season in a number of ways in and out of the classroom. Showed tremendous growth, leadership, school, and community spirit. Recipient for 2016 has displayed tremendous pride in Wellington, volunteered whenever asked, not when not asked to, was welcoming and engaging to all our students with no attention to age, grade, or social group. The student gave countless hours to all activities at the school, large and small, and until today seemed happy with only a school t-shirt and the plaque to this award reads, awarded to a Wellington graduate for outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to school and community. And we are very proud of calling it the Tom Mason Wildcat Award. Award now presented to our deserving graduate. The recipient of the 2016 inaugural Tom Mason Wildcat Award is Matthew Krastel.
What did you kids think? Some of you kids would have seen it last year too. It was a big moment, really big moment. So that day, it was really emotional. Like, as soon as I sat back down on my seat, I was crying. Because first of all, it was a surprise, like I already mentioned. But it was so unexpected. Like, I never thought doing something so easy for school spirit actually led me to an award like that. And one day it could be you kids one day, if you're really lucky. So a month after that moment, after high school, I started working at and I still work there now, a place called Lowe's Home Improvement. Have any of you kids been to Lowe's before? I know Miss Boyd has. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you, kids. Hands down. Thank you. So I load a lot of heavy stuff into people's vehicles. Like, I can load a dishwasher. I can load lots of different things, including a fridge. It's pretty crazy to load a fridge, but me and my team, we can do it for anybody. So there's one question I want to ask all of you guys, and This question, you students from last year will remember this question. I really want you to also think about it still to this day until when you graduate high school. And this is a question I think you teachers should write down on your board, which is this question. How can you show school spirit to your school? You can pretty much write it as, how can you show school spirit to McGirr? It's a really big question, a lot of answers to that question. And it's a really good question, a really important question for students to really think about throughout the rest of your school life. Because there's a lot of answers, and I'm sure one of these days, if you ever show your school spirit every single day, 7 days a week, every week, throughout every school year, there might be a chance you might win awards similar to what I won. So now, if there's any questions about my presentation, now is the time you can ask me those questions. Anybody have any questions? Sure. Yep.
Are you 24?
I am 24. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be 25, the quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Why was there so much clapping in the ceremony thing?
Well, it was very special. Like, first of all, it's funny actually. I was expecting the applause, but I did not expect what you saw there, the standing ovation. That's what it's called when someone stands up and they applaud. They call that a standing ovation. And that was something I didn't expect, honestly. But
I think you have to realize how big of a part that Matthew played in his school.
yeah, that's right.
So he was a very, very big part of Wellington School. So once he decided he made a choice, he made a conscious choice to change some behaviors that were alienating him from other students. So things that were like bugging and poking and maybe trying to get attention, but in a negative way. So he made a choice to change that. He became a really big part of his school. So he ended up being involved in, I think, audiovisual, like
Yes.
setting up for all the assemblies.
Yep.
Helping with the drama productions, I think, too.
Brief. I was in drama class in grade
That's what I
12,
thought,
but
yeah.
that's all I really did. I didn't do it for the big plays.
Yeah,
but you're right.
So any time that the principal asked for a helper or volunteer, Matthew went and did it. And he did it voluntarily out of the goodness of his heart, and just because he wanted to make a difference in his school community. So what he's trying to say is that when you give out a positive outlook, then you get back lots of appreciation. So people
Exactly.
in his school really loved, like all the other students knew Matthew, very popular, and everybody really liked him and enjoyed being around him. That's why the applause was so great.
Exactly. Exactly true. And that's actually a school spirit thing right there.
That's right.
So really think about, there's other answers too. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How many friends did you have in the year through kindergarten through grade 4?
So that's actually a really good question, because when I was you kids' age, it was actually pretty difficult for me to make friends, because not only was my behavior not great sometimes, but as a person with autism, it can be challenging sometimes to make friends. And in fact, when I was in the first grade, I was actually in a program called Skills for Life. And that was the perfect group to make new friends that have the same way of how my life really is, with autism and other special needs. So yeah, it's a really big accomplishment to make new friends. And then I think more importantly in high school, it was more special because that's where I met more friends. And even now as an adult, I'm very well known in this town because I know firefighters, I know teachers, principals in other school districts. So yeah, I still make a lot of new friends over the years, even at 24 years old.
And I think one of the things, I don't know if you've touched on this, Matthew, about your personal interests and things that you really, really like.
Yeah.
So sometimes for people with autism, they have intense interests. So is there an intense interest that you have in something? I can think of something, but.
Yeah, well, the main interest I really like is, in my spare time, I like to go see fire trucks and fire engines out and about in town, because I'm very well known to the fire department. My mom is an administrative for the fire department here in Nanaimo. So I got to meet all the chiefs and all the firefighters, and I got permission to record the fire department responding to calls, and I have those on my YouTube as well. So, and trains too. Yeah, I'm a big train guy too. I think we have another, I think we have one more question because I see another group coming. So let's do one more question. Sure.
My dad's a firefighter, and so is my friend Lauren.
Here in Nanaimo?
Yeah,
I'm sure I might meet him.
and we've both been in fire trucks a lot.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I'll bet you I might have met your father because I met almost every fire captain and the chiefs. I've known them for a very long time, almost 15 years.
My dad's name's Colin.
Colin, that's cool. Okay, I could do one last one.
What's your YouTube channel name?
So in a few minutes, I'm going to be giving out my information cards, and actually that reminds me, thank you. Where are they? So when I give out these information cards, Miss White, if you want to do that, if later on,
To the teachers.
and teachers, sure. If you search my first and last name, Matthew Krastel, on YouTube, you'll see a whole lot of videos of me that I've shared about what I go through in life with my my presentations here, my fire truck and train videos. I have all of that on my YouTube channel.
Music.
And a bit of music too. I'm not much of a musician anymore as I used to be, but I do have some old performances I've done over the years too. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. And yeah, the teachers will give out information cards that you guys can keep somewhere in a safe place. And yeah, maybe you'll see me on YouTube one of these days. And I've had people comment before about, I've seen you in this class. So yeah, I see those comments. So it's really, really interesting to read those comments.
And if any of the teachers would like some literature, books, or stories, just let me know to further this conversation in the classroom.
Yeah, sure. All right, kids, thank you very much. Have a good day.
So I wanted to introduce you to a friend, and his name is Matthew Krastel. And he is used to be a student here in School District 68, not at McGirr, at Upland School, and then at Wellington School. But he happens to be a person with autism, and he's going to talk to you a little bit today about how we can have some choices with our behavior, and just a little bit about what his life is like as a person that might have autism. And then at the end, you guys can ask some questions about that. All right, and I expect you guys to be an amazing audience. You've made a great start so far. And I'm going to go take pictures. Off for you.
Thanks, Ms. Boyd. Good morning, students. How's everyone doing? Good. Good. I'm glad to hear. Well, like she said, my name is Matthew Krastel. I am a person with autism, and my main topic of this presentation is called My Autistic Life. So just before I really go into how my life really is with autism, I want to give you kids 3 definitions of what autism is. So autism mainly is a treatable neurological spectrum disorder that affects between 1 to 150 children, youth, and adults in BC alone. Most people that have autism see things differently than other people, and that's one reason why I'm diagnosed with autism. And some people that have autism also will have problems learning various subjects anywhere, and that's my second reason to why I'm diagnosed with autism. So now the beginning of my life. So here I am as a newborn. Yeah, that's me, the very first picture of my life, born on May 7th of 1998. So preschool years, some of you kids may recognize this building. It's called the Child Development Center. Now the Child Development Center back in the day, and 20 years ago, that's where I went in preschool. The building still exists to this day, but it's actually no longer a preschool. It's actually a place for people who have severe disabilities of any age that will take part in groups that the Child Development Center will host. So it's still a great place to this day, 20 years later. So my elementary school years, I went to Uplands Park Elementary School. It's home of the Panthers. So in the first grade, when I was you kids' age, I definitely had some behavior problems and learning problems. And the behavior problems really occurred especially at recess. So when you kids are at recess, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of trouble going around that I'm sure the teachers have witnessed a lot of you kids. Well, when I was your guys' age, I had a lot of the problems. Especially in grade 4, it was actually the crazy and not the greatest year for me because I was actually in the principal's office almost every day. Very embarrassing, but I was there almost every single day because I had a lot of trouble with various different behaviors. So my behavior did start to improve a bit more in grades 5 to 7, very slowly, but not the greatest, but it was better than it was in grade 4. So in high school years, I went to Wellington Secondary School. It's home of the Wildcats. So in grade 8, when you kids get to grade 8, you're going to realize a few things. First of all, you would actually see a whole lot of classrooms being switched around because you're going to be transferring to more than one classroom for various subjects. But not only that, but you also meet 2 times more friends in high school than you would here in this school. You'll really see that difference when you get there. So 2 weeks into the first year of high school, yes, I made lots of new friends, and I also started to like going to school. Now, any of you kids, by a show of hands, like coming to this school? Great, really great. Yeah, all the teachers have to be. If not, something is wrong. Thank you. Hands down, thank you. Thank you. Hands down. It's really good to go to school and get your education for a good career in your future, right? So I'm going to jump to grade 11 because grades 9 and 10 were the same way as how I was in grade 8. So now in grade 11, I'm going to first of all tell you a little story that might change your life one day. You ready?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So have you kids ever had a moment in your life when you tried to go to bed and fall asleep, you couldn't fall asleep because there's things that go into your mind that you think about from your past that you wish you could have done better? Has that happened? Yeah, it happens.
It happened today.
Yeah, and it could happen today, yeah. It can happen every single day, in fact. Okay, hands down, kids. Thank you. So I tried to go to sleep one night, but I really couldn't fall asleep for over an hour. So something wasn't right. So I decided, because my mind was really coming into me about the things I've done in grade 4, where I wasn't behaving well with students and staff. So I decided just before I fell asleep, actually, the next day, I went back to school and I apologized to every single student there was. And I was very emotional too. I was in tears. I was everything. I wasn't happy at all because I felt bad. And I wanted to prove to students that I really wanted to change. So after that happened, once my life changed completely, all my friends in high school became amazing friends to me, and still to this day, even as an adult, they're all great friends to me in life. So in grade 12, there was the final year of high school. It was very emotional for me, and it will be for you students too. And during the 2016 high school award ceremony, I received something called a School Spirit Award. Now, have you kids ever heard of School Spirit before? Yeah, a few of you. Yeah, a few of you. Thank you. Hands down. Thank you. Now, School Spirit is a very important thing for any school, not only for 1 week, but every week. So before I talk more into the School Spirit, I just want to quickly show you a comparison of me in grade 8 and in grade 12. So in grade 12, when you have your school photo in grade 12, this is what you'll look like, wearing a gown to symbolize that you are graduating. And I'm sure your parents will be very proud of you when that happens. Okay, so now back to the school spirit part. This moment I call the big step. And the reason I call it the big step is because here I am in my grade 12 graduation ceremony. This gentleman here, his name is Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason was a vice principal at Wellington Secondary School for a long time, and he was just retiring that day as well. So the teachers that year decided to come up with the idea of making it a wood plaque award out of Mr. Mason's name, called the Tom Mason Wildcat Award, because he showed school spirit as a teacher, but they also wanted to award a student that did the same thing as what Mr. Mason did, showing leadership, commitment to the school and community. Those are some examples. So here it is close up, and I was the very first student in Wellington Secondary School history to win that award. And it's on a wood plaque and everything. Now I'm going to show you guys a video here of that moment when I won that award, because it was a very emotional moment that really impressed everybody. So I'm sure you kids will really enjoy this.
Which leads me to our final awarding today. This is a new award presented for the first time. Which leads me to our final awarding today. This is a new award presented for the first time, in 2016. This award goes to a student who, much like Mr. Mason, represented the spirit of Wellington and what it takes to be a wildcat. We are awarding a graduate who succeeded in a number of ways in and out of the classroom, showed tremendous growth, leadership, school, and community spirit. The recipient for 2016 has displayed tremendous pride in Wellington, volunteered whenever asked, not when not asked to, was welcoming and engaging to all other students with no attention to age, grade, or social group. The student gave countless hours to all activities at the school, large and small, and until today seemed happy with only a school t-shirt as a thank you. The plaque to this award reads, awarded to a Wellington graduate for outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to school and community. And we are very proudly calling it the Tom Mason Wildcat Award. To a Wellington graduate for outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to school.
So here's a big moment right here.
He's a big son. The recipient of the 2016 and inaugural Tom Mason Wildcat Award is Matthew Krastel.
I don't know why it's skipping on me like that. But that was mainly the important part anyway. It's just when I won that award, I got standing ovation also, which was really, really surprising. So standing ovation means when the audience stands up when they applaud. It's really, really interesting. Not many people get that. But not only that, but after graduating like that, I was disappointed too, because that's when you leave all of your friends that you've known for a very long time, ever since being here, you know, and you don't know when you'll see all the graduating students next. And that question still comes into my mind today, 7 years later. So a month after the ceremony, I started working at a place I still do to this day. It's called Lowe's Home Improvement. Have any of you guys been to Lowe's before? Yeah? A few of you. That's good. Thank you. Hands down. It's a really good hardware store. I load a lot of big things into people's vehicles. It's a very simple job. Now, there's one question, a big question, I'm going to ask all of you students to really think about into your own mind until you finish high school. And I think this is a good question for you teachers to write down this question on your board for a while. This question right here, how can you show your school spirit to your school? How can you show school spirit to McGirr? That's the perfect question you should write down. It's a really big question, a lot of answers to that question too. So really think about it into your mind for the next while. And maybe if you think about that question, if you show your school spirit, maybe, just maybe, you might win a similar award to what I won. So really think about it. It might make a difference to you one day in the future. Okay, so if there's anybody now that has any questions, now is the time you can ask me. Anyone that has any questions?
My cousin has autism.
Your cousin? Yeah, how does it make you feel in a way? Like, do you feel good to know someone that has autism too besides myself? Yeah, it's a little different, you know, it feels a bit different to know someone. Yeah, and you know what? Guess what? I'm the same way. You can't tell from me, but everybody's brain is different than others. And that's the main thing too about me. Yes, sir.
My grandma has autism.
And your grandma too, yeah. People of any age, it's not just children, keep that in mind too. It's not only children that have autism, it's also adults like myself as well. Yes, sir.
What is I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Autism.
What is autism?
So it's more of a treatable neurological spectrum disorder, like I mentioned in the beginning, that it really affects between 1 to 100 children, youth, of people of all ages. And there's many different reasons about autism. People can see things differently than other people. Some people may not even speak like we can. I actually know someone who can't even speak, and he's almost 27 years old. It's not common to see that, but there are people out there who are like that. Yes, sir.
My cousin, she's like that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, not many people understand that, but it's really true. There's a lot of people that have autism.
How do you know you have autism?
So when I was 2.5 years old, I was almost 3. That was when I got diagnosed with autism at that age. The only thing I could really remember was I went to this special doctor. I think it was in Vancouver, I think it was. My parents took me there, and they took me to the special doctor to get tested to make sure, to see how my behavior was. So when the doctor asked me this one question, I don't remember what it was, I literally just ran away and didn't say anything. And then my doctor said to the parents, your son has autism. That's all I really remember about it. So yeah, that's really all I can really think about that. And the reason I really remember it was because I was actually in the newspaper about it over 20 years ago. All right, how much time do we have for questions?
We got half an hour. We have a good chunk of time. Still another 10 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, a few more questions, sure.
I saw something. He couldn't talk. How he can talk. I saw him He I can see the eyes, and he taught how we can talk in the classroom.
Yeah, and you know what? There's people like that too.
I saw him 2 times, and we were weird. I can't remember how many times I've seen him.
Yeah.
It was, okay, so I can walk to my house from here.
Yep.
It's really close.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him at the park maybe 2 times. I can't remember if I saw him somewhere else too.
Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of like a neighborhood friend almost, if you think of it.
I don't know if he's from this neighborhood.
Well, he might be. You don't know that, but there's big neighborhoods out there here in Nanaimo.
Like, I don't even know everybody in my neighborhood. I haven't even moved in a house in a month ago.
Yeah.
My house is, so all you have to do is turn over the other side of the road, go down, then go here, then the other side, go down there. Second house is Steve, that's my house.
So it's like a neighbor. From what I'm getting, it's probably it could be a neighbor of yours or similar to that on a similar street.
So it could be a neighbor, I don't know.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Right there, you had a question, right? Yep, go ahead.
Were you in a newspaper?
I was in the newspaper a few times.
Why?
A few times. Well, I can actually share these memories. Well, first of all, yeah, when I got diagnosed with autism back in 2001, and there was another funny moment 2 years after where I was in the newspaper because I don't know if you kids will know, but at Bowen Park, here's a little history for you about Bowen Park. There used to be a little barnyard in Bowen Park for a long time. It's no longer there. It hasn't been there for almost 15 years. But I remember this barnyard every summer. Kids would go there, and one summer, it was summer of 2003, I went with my educational worker I was working with, and she took me to the barnyard with my sister, and we had to save a pig out of a bucket. So the farmer, myself, my sister, we were all trying to take care of this pig. It was a big pig, and it was stuck in the pail, and we were trying to take it out. So that's what the picture was. But it's a shame that the barnyard no longer exists. But it was actually right by the duck pond, which is where it was, which is now a parking lot now. But that's pretty much the only time I was ever in the newspaper. Oh, and one other time when I was in the 5th grade, I was performing with a professional Canadian musician, Fred Penner. And one time he was playing a show at the Port Theatre, Fred Penner's Where in the World. And only my hands were in the picture. But yeah, that's Fred Penner. He was a really great guy to meet. I'm sure some of you kids might heard of Fred Penner. He was a really good Canadian musician from Winnipeg. But that's pretty much it after that. So yeah, interesting question there. Yes?
I got 2 things.
Sure.
On this TV show, I saw this guy who was like deaf, so he could like
Couldn't hear, yeah.
couldn't talk.
And couldn't talk either, yeah.
And my friend Sadie, she has a different voice.
Yeah, and you know what? I knew someone too who, similar thing as what you're saying, but the only way you can communicate to that person, well, yeah, so sign language is what you're talking about, but also a computer system which has various things of what they want, and they just click on it. I know people who are like that too. Sure.
Once at the farm, the pigs escaped, and the farmers had to get the pigs back in the pen, and they're in like a grumpy mood. So
Yeah, the pigs, yeah. Some people, especially people who have autism, may have different feelings about how they react to pigs. I was actually pretty scared in that photo, to be honest. I was pretty scared, but it was okay. But, okay, I guess 2 more questions? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, you in the front row.
Why did you run away in the hospital when you had autism?
I didn't run away. I shouldn't say it that way, but maybe it was just because there was more than like my parents around that really got me really nervous. I don't even remember where I ran. I was so little then. It was hard to remember back then. But maybe it was just the way I was socializing with someone completely different back then. It just wasn't easy. Really, I was so shy. Especially then, it was so easy for me to be shy. That's pretty much all I really remember. It was way back in 2001, so probably before you kids were born. Okay, one more question. Sure. Yeah.
In Aquatic Center, I went on a hot tub with my mom, and I saw like a guy with one leg, and there was like a fake leg that he can take on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And if you think about it, that's interesting too, because if you remember Terry Fox, when you do the Terry Fox run, Terry Fox had the same thing too. But it's not only Terry Fox that went through that. Anybody can go through that, depending on their leg condition too.
Or like they can like be born with that. Like,
They could be, yeah.
can, like, have
That's right.
Like a tiny leg.
Yep.
Or they have no leg at all.
Yeah,
Or,
that's
like,
something
a
too.
tiny hand or a tiny arm.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, it's different when people are born too, in certain ways. Very rare for it to happen. Very, very rare. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Okay. Okay. Teacher, one last one from the teacher. Okay.
I have one question.
Sure.
Were you ever treated differently because of having autism?
I totally. Oh yes. I was bullied a lot. Even as an adult, I was. Yeah.
Even now?
Well, I wouldn't say really recently, but it's just more just after graduating high school, as I turned 19 years old. When you become an adult, it's 19 years old. I was still bullied from teenagers, because I knew teenagers still back then, right? Because they were younger.
Yeah. And
But-
how would you wish that you were treated?
Sorry?
How would you wish that you were treated?
I wish I was treated more with respect. Just like how everyone here, you guys should all treat your friends and your teachers and your parents, everybody respect, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way with someone with autism like me, right? Okay, so just one last thing. I do have some information cards, if you can give them out. I think there's enough here. So if you kids put this one business information card in a safe place so you can see more of me on YouTube. If you search up Matthew Krastel on YouTube, you can see more of me, not only from my presentation, but other interesting things like train videos. If you like trains and fire engines, I got those on YouTube. And lots of other interesting things as well. So keep it in a safe place. And yeah, thank you very much. Sure.
All right. So before we leave, I just wanted to say that it was such a privilege having Matthew come in and speak to us today.
Thank you.
I think it's incredibly important that we all start to notice that we are all different. Every single one of us is a little bit different from each other, right? And that's why the world is so fun and the world is so interesting and exciting.
That's right.
But because we are different, right? Everyone's a little different. We still should be treating people how we still should be treating people how we would like to be treated, right? Just as everyone else. And we can still grow, just as you mentioned in your
That's
speech.
right.
You've accomplished so much. So
That's right.
great
And
for you.
in a few weeks, I'll be turning to a quarter of a century
Oh,
in 2
yeah.
weeks. So
Nice.
yeah, there
Very
you go.
exciting.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Can we all have a big round of applause?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good, good. So yes, like Miss Boyd has said, my name is Matthew Krastel, and I am a person with autism, and that's my main topic today for my presentation. Today is my autistic life. But before I begin on sharing what my life is all about, I'm going to give you guys some definitions to what autism means, because there's a lot of definitions to what autism is, but there's 3 I highlight here. Autism mainly is a treatable neurological spectrum disorder that affects between 1 to 150 children, youth, and adults in BC alone. And most people that have autism see things differently than other people, and that's one reason why I'm diagnosed with autism. And some people that have autism may have problems learning different subjects anywhere, and that's another reason to why I'm diagnosed with autism. So here I am, the very first picture of me at the beginning of my life, born May 7th of 1998. And that's the very first picture of me since I was born. So my preschool years, some of you kids may recognize this place. It's called the Child Development Center. It still exists here in Nanaimo. I went to that place when I was in preschool 20 years ago. And the place now as a Child Development Center is no longer a preschool anymore. It actually turned into a building where people with severe disabilities, like myself with autism, could go and participate in various events that the Child Development Center will host. So that's what I've learned about that place, and I've met someone that works in that place before. So my elementary school years, I did not come to this school, unfortunately. I went to Uplands Park Elementary School. It's home of the Panthers. So in the since the beginning of the first grade, I had a lot of learning problems as well as behavior issues, especially at recess. So I'm sure most of the time, like I was out on walking around the school during your long recess, and I've seen a lot of good behavior, but there are some times where the behavior can not go right? You wouldn't behave properly. Well, in my grade 4 year, it was the worst school year for me. And that's because I got into a lot of trouble for many different things, and I got into the principal's office almost every day. I'm not gonna lie, I was in the principal's office almost every day because I didn't learn my lessons at the time. So my behavior slowly did improve a bit more in grades 5 and 7, very slowly, but it was good enough that I didn't have to go see the principal every single day because it was embarrassing. So in high school years, I went to Wellington Secondary School. It's home of the Wildcats. Now in grade 8 was it's very different when you start high school. Like, think about it. When you start high school in the grade 8 level, you're not only going to meet 2 times more friends that you would here than you would in high school, but your subjects are all going to be completely different than you would here in school in one classroom. In high school, you rotate to different classrooms every single day for different subjects. You'll find that out more when you actually go into high school. So 2 weeks into the first year of high school, yes, I made lots of new friends that way. And I also started to like going to school. Now, raise your hand if you kids like coming to this school. Yeah, teachers have to raise your hands, yes. But they're good, lots of you, thank you, hands down. I really like going to school. Not only is that you meet friends that way and connect more with friends, but it's the learning. The learning of various things, learning new things. It's the one thing I really enjoyed, is just learning new things and get a good grade. So in grade 11, I'm going to skip to grades 9 and 10 because those years were the same as in grade 8. So in grade 11, there was a big moment in my grade 11 year when I decided on my own to change my life completely. So I'm going to tell you guys a story. So when halfway in my grade 11 year, I was trying to go to sleep. And have you ever kids had a moment in your life where you try to go to sleep, but you really couldn't fall asleep because you were thinking about something in your mind that you thought of in the past that you wish you could have done better? Yeah, see, yeah, a lot of people already raised your hands, yeah. Happens to almost everybody, thank you, hands down. It was hard for me to think of the past like that. Like, what I'm talking about is when I was in grade 4, when I was in the principal's office every day for many different things. Bullying students, making fun of people. Those were all the things. And I wish I could have been better on that, but back then I couldn't. So as soon as I was about to fall asleep, the one thing I said to myself was this: tomorrow morning I'm going back to school and I'm going to apologize to every single student about what I've done in the past. So the next morning came and I just went to school and I felt very, very emotional and in tears, in fact, because I was very serious. I really wanted to prove to everyone that I wanted to change. So when that happened, all my friends in high school became amazing friends to me, and still to this day, they're still great friends to me. So in grade 12, the final year of high school was very emotional for me, and when you kids get to grade 12, it'll be emotional for you too. And during the 2016 high school award ceremony, I received something called a School Spirit Award. Now, any of you kids ever heard of that term, school spirit? Yeah, some of you have. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Hands down. So school spirit is a really important thing I'm going to also talk about in just a few minutes here. But before I do, here's a photo comparison of me in grade 8. And this is me when I was in grade 12. Now, when you get into grade 12, your school photo, when you get into grade 12, you'll be expected to wear this gown in your photo, and that will prove to not only to the school district, but your family, that you're going to be graduating and starting a new chapter in your life soon. So one day you're going to get there, just like I did. So, okay, now this is the big step. Now this is where the school spirit that I'm talking about really begins. So this is me right here. This is my graduation, high school graduation ceremony. This gentleman here, his name is Mr. Mason. Now, Mr. Mason was a vice principal at Wellington Secondary School for a very long time, and he showed a lot of school spirit in a way that a teacher was able to do it for students. So they wanted to, since he was retiring that year, the same day as I was graduating, the staff decided to come up with the idea to make a wood plaque award called the Tom Mason Wildcat Award as his retirement present. and award a graduating student that did the same thing as what Mr. Mason did, showing school spirit and leadership and supports the school and community. And I was the very first student in Wellington's history to win that award. And this is what it looks like up close. So there it is, the very first student in 2015-16 school year. And all these empty spots are all, I'm sure there's a few taken now, because every year, ever since that year, a new graduating student will win it every year if they show their school spirit. Now I'm going to show a video up for you guys now of the moment when I won that award.
Which leads me to our final award here today. This is a new award presented for the first time, in 2016. This award goes to a student who, much like Mr. Mason, represented the spirit of Wellington and what it takes to be a Wildcat. We are awarding a graduate who succeeded in a number of ways in and out of the classroom, showed tremendous growth, leadership, school, and community spirit. The recipient for 2016 has displayed tremendous pride in Wellington, volunteered whenever asked, and often when not asked to, was welcoming and engaging to all other students with no attention to age, grade, or social group. The student gave countless hours to all activities at the school, large and small, and until today seemed happy with only a school t-shirt as a thank you. The plaque to this award reads, awarded to a Wellington graduate for outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to school and community. And we are very proud of calling it the Tom Mason Wildcat Award. Award helps present to our deserving graduate. He's a big son. The recipient of the 2016 and inaugural Tom Mason Wildcat Award is Matthew Krastel.
What do you kids think? Pretty good? Yeah, that.
I want to watch it again.
I had a lot of emotions go on at that moment. Like, not only very emotional wise, but I was also disappointed. Like, yeah, it was great to win the award, but more importantly, I felt disappointed to leave all my friends I've known for a very long time, because after that ceremony, that's when you guys separate from school life and move on to your own life, whether it's work or university, many different things. So I still feel emotional to this day, because I just don't know when I'll see all my grad friends next. Some of them, yeah, I still keep in touch, but not very many. So a month after the graduation ceremony, I work at a place called Lowe's Home Improvement. Been there for 7 years now, and I just load lots of heavy stuff into people's vehicles. Any of you guys have been to Lowe's before? Yeah? Oh, Miss Boyd I know has. She bought something, a really cool appliance before, so I've seen her around every once in a while. So yeah, who knows, maybe you might see me around somewhere. I might be playing a little hide and seek, but I might be somewhere and you might be lucky and just say hi to me. That'd be pretty cool to see. Okay, now before I finish, there's one question I want to ask you guys, and I want you to write this question down on your board. A very important question that these kids should really think about for the rest of their school life. How can you show your school spirit to your school? How can you show school spirit to McGirr? That's a perfect question you should write down. I can almost write it on this board right now. It's a really important question, and not many schools think of that question until now. There's so many answers to that question, It can be helping your teacher out with something important, helping your principal out with something important. There's many different answers to that, and that's something you should really think about until you graduate high school in grade 12. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you might win a similar award to what I did if you follow that question. So really think about that. All right, so now this is the time where if anybody has any questions about my presentation, this is the time now. You have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who recorded that video?
So my parents were sitting in the audience. They were the ones that made the video of the whole grad footage, but I was able to turn it into a little clip of just that moment. Yeah, and it's on. I have it on my own VHS tape to make sure it's kept safe in storage. Yes. As a parent, I would agree as a parent, because when I got diagnosed, I was only 2.5 years old, almost 3 actually, as a matter of fact. And when my parents found out I got diagnosed with autism, they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to do. They were panicking. So it took years for them to handle taking care of me, because I had to have more attention, because I have an older sister as well who doesn't have autism, and it was so different. And I had to work with educational assistants as well, because my behavior and learning has just been an issue. But now I live on my own. Ever since I was 18, I moved out of my parents' house, and not many people can move out when they're 18 years old. So I was pretty lucky to be able to move out of my own home by myself and just live on my own. Still to this day, it's already been 6 years. But living on your own you have the freedom, but it feels like you're better to live with a friend of yours that you really know really well. They call it as a roommate. And I feel like that's probably where I probably might want to be in life, later on in life, is at least with someone I know and trust, that I might be able to, just keep in touch. And
Does it get lonely sometimes?
And it can be lonely, exactly.
And
So,
then, is it hard navigating things like paying your bills and?
no, me it's easy. It's easy because I have my job at Lowe's. It makes it so much easier. Yes.
What was hard in high school?
Hard in high school, I would definitely have to say it's mathematics. There's a few different types of mathematics courses in high school. There's apprenticeship at workplace. I don't even remember. Foundations of math.
Foundations of math. And then there's advanced math.
That's right. It's very, very different when you get to high school. You have to, if you try to apply for math in class in your school year, you have a couple different options, and they go by difficulty level. So if you're really good at math, you probably want to go to the higher level of math, which is more of an honors type. But you'll learn more about that when you get into high school.
But also, too, something to keep in mind is even if one subject area or thing is hard for you in school, that doesn't mean that you're not really bright and gifted in other areas. So,
That's right.
So in Matthew's case, he has a couple of really cool interest areas that he's actually quite gifted in, which I wouldn't be able to remember half the things he does. So he knows a lot about trains. He knows a lot about all the different kinds of trains, where they run, their stops. He also knows all about the local fire department, and he knows a good majority of the people who work in the fire department, where they get call-outs for, how their trucks work, and all that stuff. I don't know those things. So something I'm good at is something different, like maybe reading or sewing or math, but Matthew's really good at some other things that I'm not good at.
That's right. Plus, with the fire department, I do have the permission to listen to their communications and their calls. So, but not many people are allowed to, but I was able to have permission to get in touch with fire department and connect with them a lot. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah.
Is there stages of like autism? Or is it
There's many different types. In fact, when I was in the first grade, I was in a little class. Not many students were in it. It was called Skills for Life. I don't know if this school has that anymore.
No,
But-
there's only one in the district that
Oh, really? Yeah, years ago, it was every school had a school Skills for Life class. And even in high school, there's a Skills for Life class, because I peer tutored one Skills for Life class when I was in grade 11. In Skills for Life, what it is it's a class where people with severe disabilities like autism or can't even speak or anything like that have really bad difficulties learning high school level. They would take part in Skills for Life class, and they do a lot easier subjects, and they just learn new things. They go out somewhere and in the community and do something new that most people can do, but people cannot. So there's a lot of different stages. And
when you were young, like really young, when you were 2 and 3, how were your communication skills, like speaking? Were you later to speak than?
I was later to speak, you're right. I didn't start speaking until I was at least close to 4. And that's not common. You would be like maybe 6 months old to a year in order to speak properly. But full sentences, I was at least 4.
Yeah, so sometimes people's brains work differently with autism, and part of their brains that are different is the communication center in the brain. So communicating is a little bit harder. Some of the other things I think that are harder are the social skills piece.
Yes.
So it's hard to interpret what somebody's wanting of you. So when you look at someone and you go like this, a lot of you know that means, oh, that person's not happy, right? So sometimes for people with autism, they have more difficulty reading people's faces and knowing what's the right thing to do to make a friend.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's harder.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was in elementary school, I really had that difficulty. It was because people would make fun of me. I've been bullied before too, even as an adult. And that's the reason why. It's hard to connect with people because you never know if they'll make fun of you or trust you as a friend.
Yeah.
That's another thing
And
too.
it's about accepting everybody's communication styles, that
Correct.
they're all different.
Right.
And that just because you communicate one way doesn't mean another person has to communicate that same way. So it's about accepting differences amongst everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
What sports did you play in high school?
Well, I wasn't in a real sports team, but over the years I would play. My most favorite is basketball. I remember shooting half-court shots back in the day too. I played a little hockey, soccer especially as a kid. I used to be in a soccer league, but it wasn't connected to the school. But my most favorite game I would play in school, in an elementary level, the one memory I remember when I was here last school year, I remember playing California kickball one round with the grade 7s last school year. And I was better than I was before, but I didn't make a home run. But those are good sports memories I can really think of. Thank you. Yes.
Do you still have trouble with autism?
Lately now, not as much, because now I live on my own and I learned a lot over the years. But the only thing that really comes into mind is if I learn something new, it could take me more time to get used to it. Like, for example, if I work at a new job, I'll have anxiety because I don't know how much I'm going to have to learn and how long it'll take me. So that's probably the main thing I could really think of. Yes.
How old were you when you started preschool?
So preschool, I was around 3 or 4. I think it was 3. Because I was in preschool for 2 years. So yeah, I was 3. Well, I'm 24 now. I'm going to be a quarter of a century in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a big change. Yes.
What was your favorite subject in high school?
Definitely PE gym class. Math was my worst. Science was pretty decent too, because I don't know if you students have ever learned about the water cycle before, have you? Yeah? Okay, great. Yeah, that's great. So the one interesting thing I learned about the water cycle, I'm surprised that adults now many years ago never learned about the water cycle until maybe in the 2000s. Because I asked a couple of older people this one question, have you learned about the water cycle before? And they said no. So what surprised me about that is, it just really surprised me, because the one thing I really believed when I learned about the water cycle when I was you guys' age was, in the winter months, the weather gets too cold outside, right? Snowy, and I don't like the snow. So in order for the weather to get warmer, I have a reason to believe that the more hot water you use in your tap, in your sink, the more hot water that goes down your drain, the more chances it'll be that the weather will get warmer. I don't know if you think about it that way, but it's all because of the water cycle. When water goes down the drain, it goes into the sewer, out into the river, to the ocean, up to the sky, and back down. So if you think about it that way, the more hot water you use, it makes a difference with the weather. I'm serious. No one understands me on that.
We really want the weather to get better, so.
So that means your instructions, if you want the weather to be warmer in a better spring, put the drain down when the water is cold, and then when the water warms up more.
Oh, I'll take a 1 hour.
Get it? You get what I'm saying?
Not in your house. There's too many people in your house, Bella.
Yeah, see there.
That'd be more money for your electric bill.
Yes.
It would be, but it would be worth it, because then when springtime really comes around, which I know it's spring now, but once the weather gets above 15 degrees, then I could really say thank you for using all the hot water. And then you don't have to use your heat. That's what happens, right?
I don't know if you guys picked up on sort of one of the main messages that Matthew had. So one of the main messages that he was saying is that sometimes we have poor behavior and we look for attention in negative ways, but you have the power within yourself to change that.
Exactly.
So he made a decision when he was in grade 11 that he didn't like that place of being in a negative behavior cycle and not necessarily maybe offending some people, and he made a conscious choice and decision to change that for himself. And then what happened was he became a really, really important part of Wellington High School. So Matthew was then involved, and that's the other piece that I think he's getting at too, is participation in a positive way. So you can participate in your school community, in your classroom, in your family in positive ways. And when you do that, those positive things come back and you get recognized for those positive things instead of negative things, negative behavior. So at Wellington, he was a very, very popular person. All the kids knew him, 8 to 12. He volunteered a lot in his high school, and he offered to do things. He did the audio visual, so he would set up like computers, projectors, sound systems, that sort of thing. And he was the first to volunteer at many of the events at Wellington High School too. So what he's saying is take part in your community in a positive way.
Definitely, yeah. Yes.
Autism kind of like die down, like when you get older?
Interesting question. If you get diagnosed with autism, it's with it. You have it for the rest of your life, and not everyone that gets diagnosed with autism gets diagnosed when they're a kid. I even knew someone who got diagnosed when they were 30. I'm not joking. I'm really serious.
And I think it's about learning strategies.
And that
right?
too, yeah.
Learning strategies to cope with different things as you get older.
That's
so you
right.
handle it in different ways as you get older.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have a pet for your company?
I really wish I can have a pet, but first of all, before I go any further on that, I'm not a dog person.
What about a cat person?
Well, I'm a cat person. I would love a cat, but the problem is where I'm living, they restrict me from having a pet. So I'm not allowed to have a pet in my place. But dogs, I have to keep my 6 feet distance from any dog. Doesn't matter if it's big or small.
Not a fan.
That's right. They're like spiders to me. But cats, they're more calming. They're more smooth with their fur. They just seem more loving, you know. I used to have hamsters years ago when I was really little. We had 2 hamsters, but the problem is they don't last long. 1 year.
Yeah.
But cats, if I had my own place, I would love to have a cat for company, totally. But
I think dogs move around too quickly and are
too wild.
unpredictable.
Yeah.
And are you even allowed to have a fish?
Well, fish I used to have aquarium fish too, like that, but that was way back when I was in kindergarten. But I already have my own pets, electronic singing fishes in my house.
Tell them about. Why don't you have that in here?
I didn't have space to bring it in.
Tell them how many you have.
So, if you can imagine a house, a small little cottage, a one bedroom, one bathroom cottage that has 127 singing fishes on the wall.
Have you guys ever heard of Billy Bass?
The big mouth Billy Bass.
Big mouth Billy Bass. It's on a plaque, a wooden plaque, and it's a fish mounted on this plaque, not a real one, and it sings. And they sing different tunes. So he has
127.
You got your last one just this past weekend, right?
Yeah, in Brentwood Bay, yeah.
Brentwood Bay, yeah.
Yeah, I just find them in thrift shops. Super cheap. Value Village is where I get most of them. But that's my collection and my pets, because then I don't have to feed them. They just require 4 C batteries in order to be alive. If I know they're crappy, I know they're needing new batteries, or they're dead and going to the grave. No, just kidding. But yeah, I have on my YouTube, I have YouTube as well, and I have videos of where I play all of them at the same time. And that already attracted like over 100,000 views at least. So that's something you can look for later on YouTube.
You'll get a little card that'll say that.
Yeah, once we finish the questions, she'll give you some information cards. Sure.
Are you not allowed to have a cat because some people who come into the store might have allergies?
Well, it's not a store, remember, it's my own place, right? But yeah, there might be an owner at the house, which is called my landlord, because I don't own my place, I rent. So when you get older, you're going to learn more about housing and how you can rent a place first for a while, and then as you make more money, you'll own a house. So when you're renting a house, you normally have rules in place where you can't have a pet sometimes. And my place certainly is one of them. So, but there's many different reasons that an owner of the house would not allow. And yeah, there could be allergies, or maybe it'd just be too difficult to clean afterwards, even if I move.
Some cats like to pee in strange places.
And that too. Sure.
When me and my sister were little, our parents let us have hamsters. I mean, not hamsters, gerbils.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had one, and then Lucy had another one. And we went on vacation. We came back, and Lucy's guinea pig ate mine.
Really? Wow. All right, 2 more?
Oh, gerbils.
Yeah, gerbils. That's cool. Yes, sir.
I live in a complex called Pacifica Housing,
Mm-hmm.
which does not allow dogs.
Yeah. Some places don't, especially apartment buildings. There's a few apartments that allows it, even if you own an apartment building unit, or some of them don't allow it. It's just for safety, right? Not everybody likes dogs. Like most people I know do, but I just never liked dogs my whole life. And people just need to understand that. Was there a question just over here? Yeah, I thought I saw a hand raised around here. Didn't you have one? Oh, no worries.
One last question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you said that as a person with autism, you see things differently. Can you give us an example of how maybe you would see things differently?
So there's many different things. Like first of all, many topics people would agree on that I know it seems so easy, but there's just so many other ones out there that I believe that I think the most important one I can really think of is the First Nations. I believe that First Nations, like on Truth and Reconciliation Day, which is I know is September 30th, we not only should focus just on the First Nations, but autism as well, because you never know, Native people may have autism. It may not be here in the school, but people need to understand that.
Well, and I think and there's a day in June, what is it, June 20-something, where it's Autism Pride Day?
I don't remember what the day of that. I've heard of it.
Sometimes in June there's a day where people who have autism show their pride in having autism, and that neurodiversity. The whole month of April is actually Autism Aware.
World
Month.
Autism
Yeah.
World Autism Awareness Month.
But,
April 2nd was World Autism Awareness Day.
One of the things maybe that you might see the world differently. So what about, I know sometimes you've said that you're never interested in learning how to drive, right?
And that too. And actually, that's another good example. I'm never driving a car in my life. Not everybody has to drive. It's not mandatory. My reason to not being able to drive is my choice, and it's because I know, because of the fire department, I know how many car accidents there are in this town every single day. There's at least 1 or 2 every single day, every single month.
So
And it gives me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. And that's the other, so for a lot of people, that's their thing. They want to learn how to drive. For Matthew, he doesn't see that same importance. It's just a unique way of looking at the world. I think for some people, things like your sight and your hearing and the way you feel things on your skin can be different with autism. So some people that I know, you know, tags in your shirts and in your pants and stuff. Okay, so for people with autism, it doesn't just bug them. They just cannot think of anything else. If that tag is in their clothing, they cannot think of anything else. It feels like somebody is like really scratching them or itching them. The other thing that's different is how they hear. So for instance, these lights here, for some people, it's just a light, you don't think anything of it. For people with autism, they can actually hear very acutely the humming that this particular light does.
I don't hear it here.
I know, I was gonna say some people with autism, some people hear things acutely. And so things that you might not hear or notice, somebody with autism might notice very much so. Same with light and smell.
Can't they be like also like some of them can be like very, very smart?
Very, very
Yeah,
smart.
and that too, yeah.
Well, it's like Matthew with his trains and the fire stuff and all that sort of thing. Way more knowledge than I do, right? Way more knowledge than I do.
Yeah, well, out and about in my spare time, you might see me along the E&N trail and tracking down the train or the fire department. But normally that's happening when you're in school, but maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, you might see me waiting around for a fire engine. Because I do share fire truck compilations on my YouTube channel every month. So you'll see lots of those on my YouTube, for sure. One more question? Yeah, sure.
This is kind of a comment. Sometimes when it's really, really quiet, I can hear it.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah, exactly.
So everybody has different senses, right?
That's right.
Different brains, different senses.
All right, so just before we finish up, do you want to give them up?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
sure.
So your teacher here is going to give you each my information card, I guess when you go back to your classroom, and take that home, put it in a safe place. And if you search up Matthew Krastel, you'll see it on there. If you search that up on YouTube, you'll see a whole lot of some of my presentation videos I've done in the past. In fact, my video of me from here last year is on there. And I also have fire engine videos and train videos and some bonus music videos and stuff as well. So, yeah, thank you very much, and yeah, have a good day.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Can we give Matthew a big round of applause?
Thank you.
School. Do you remember the years you were at Uplands?
2003 to 2011.
Did you ever know Mrs. Bamford? Kindergarten?
Yeah.
That's my wife.
Oh, is that right? No way.
Were you in her class by any chance?
No.
No, but you remember
I
her?
remember.
Long brown hair, yeah.
I remember. I think she made the greatest version of the song Skateboarding Santa.
Yeah.
I think it was her that created the track.
Well, that was me.
Was that you?
I recorded. I was the music teacher here at McGirr.
I couldn't.
So-
I've been trying to find that track for. Oh, no way. No way. Let me tell you about a Christmas not so long ago. There was a mighty heat wave and not an ounce of snow. The kids were struggling and shaking their heads like the weather would be better for swimming and sledding. And no one really knew what to do or say, 'cause Santa couldn't bring his presents in the usual way. No way, that was you. But from out of the blue and from over the hill, there came a vision of speed and incredible skill. He sped around the corner across the railroad tracks with a sack full of toys thrown over his back. The crowd began to holler and the crowd began to cheer. It's a skateboard and Santa bringing presents this year. Go Santa, go Santa, go Santa, go. 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 And everybody's cheering as he watching them go, 'cause Santa's riding that skateboard just like a pro. He did 3 cell combinations, every trick in the book, and he was ripping the ramp without a second look. He did a 50-50 cry without taking a fall, and a fast back over the hip to the wall. And he friends is skating and he skated all this way. And Merry Christmas all you skaters, and you have a good night. Go Santa, go Santa, go Santa, go. 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 And everybody's cheering as he watching them go, 'cause Santa's riding that skateboard just like a pro. Yeah. Oh man, that was amazing. Thank you.